performance for improvements for D3 Linux 10.3. I'm going to show you first on D3 Linux 9.2 what performance was like in our recommended settings. And so the first thing we're going to talk about and demonstrate really is the use of the raw disk. And we recommended that raw disk was turned on for data integrity purposes, and that was at the sacrifice of performance. And a lot of you out there have probably turned the raw disk off in order to get better performance, and you said it's worth it to you against our better judgment and our recommendations of preserving the integrity of your data. So what we've done for 10.3 is we've enabled the best of both worlds. So we're going to show you at first the improvement in speed that you can get. So you can see here that I'm on my 9.2 system, and if I cat out my config file, looking for raw disk, you can see that my raw disk is turned on, and you can also see that I am pretty much got all of available memory here. Haven't done anything on this thing, so the memory has not been utilized. I'm in my XDemo account. One of the things that I've done is I've used this program called Enlarge Members to increase the size of the members file that comes in the XDemo account. I've multiplied it by 400. You can see there on line number 9, 399 times plus the original. It's 400 times larger. I increased the size of it to 130,000 frames from its original 400 frames. Not quite 400 times, but it was a little oversized at 401, so the 130,000 makes it nicely sized. And then I also wrote this little ditty program called Timeit or Timeit that just takes the timing of any TCL statement. And in our demo purposes today, all we're going to do is we are going to time the count of that members file, which should have 1 million records in it. And you'll see that this, with raw disk turned on, takes a significant amount of time because it has to go out and read each frame off of disk, and it's doing a very sequential I/O, very staccato, no read ahead. We've disabled the caching on the controllers and all the stuff that the operating system will do for you as well by using the raw. And here it's about 28 seconds, and I've had anywhere from 27 to 32 seconds when I've run this, so it's a pretty average number. So now we're going to go ahead and shut down the machine and turn that raw disk to off so that you can see the performance gains that you get out of it. The other performance thing that we've done is we did this thing what we call demodularization, and we'll talk about that in a little bit after I change my config file. Okay, write that out, and then go ahead and boot the machine while it's booting. Then we can continue talking about demodularization. Demodularization is where we're taking excessive modularization of our code that we've broken out into little subroutines, thinking that, oh, we can reuse this in multiple locations. Well, as it turns out, there were a number of cases that we actually wrote subroutines that were only called from one place. And so from a performance perspective, it makes a whole lot more sense to collapse those back into one module. and that eliminates the load of the additional module and the call and all the overhead of the stack frames that are put in place by the processor in order to make those calls to those other modules. So we've done that, like I said, a few 8-10 times, something like that. I'm not exactly sure the exact number, but we did a few of them on highly used functions that were seen, that we noticed we had these modules that were only called from one other module. So we've got some performance gains out of that. Your application is going to vary as far as the impact of that, but it did show in our testing some relatively good performance gains, up to as much as 10%. So now we'll just do the time it again, whereas before we saw that the count took about 30 seconds, a little bit less than 30 seconds. Here with raw disk turned off, it takes a significantly less amount of time, so about 6 seconds. So I might add that this machine is a single processor, got about 4 gigs of memory, so it's got enough memory to fit in my my data. It is a 9.2 system, so it's only 32-bit, but it does have to page a little bit there. So anyway, that's what happens when we use raw disk off. So now we're going to switch over and show you what 10.3 does. Okay, now we're on our 10.3 box here, and you can see that we're on 10.3, and I will cat out my config file just so you can see. Well, this says raw disk is on, but and that's probably just legacy purposes. The statement is no longer pertinent. You can see here that this is after a fresh boot. My buffers are at 93%. I've got 62,000 buffers. So actually less buffers than I had on my 9.2 system. And here, if I am in the XDemo account, I've also enlarged the database here. So if you see, I do the time it, count members, and the timing of this comes back even faster. Part of that's due to the 64-bit capability of the machine. Part of it is the other performance gains that we get. But raw disk, as you can see, is theoretically turned on, so you get the benefits of the protection of your data, and at the same time we gain the benefits of the cache of the controller or the operating system, whatever's doing the read ahead of the disk for us. So we get great performance gains. This took just over 1 second. So those are some of the gains that you get by upgrading to D3 10.3.